Hello, third grade. So for reading, we're going to be talking about reading passages about famous people. So again, there's 4 parts to each one. So they're going to ask us 4 questions based on one story that we read. So this is going to be about famous people. So we're going to read through it and talk through the answers through the first one. So we're going to answer 4 questions together. So one giant splash for mankind. John Lethbridge changed underwater diving forever. In 1715, he built one of the first diving barrels, which helped divers explore the oceans. At the time, people wanted an easier way to dive deep underwater. Divers could find buried treasure in ships that had sunk, but it was hard for them to explore the sunken ships. Deep diving was grueling. Divers had to stay inside a diving bell, a small, dark space filled with a small amount of air. It was often scary and uncomfortable. They could now swim freely or pick up things from the ocean floor. Lethbridge's barrel solved some of those problems. Its main part was a long wooden tube. A diver could fit lying down in the tube. The tube's walls were strong enough to keep water out and air inside, even deep underwater. The tube had a glass window in the front so that the diver could see. It also had an opening for the diver's arm so that the diver could pick up objects. While inside the barrel, the diver could stay underwater for more than 30 minutes before needing to come up for air. Lethbridge first tested the barrel in a pond outside his house. Then he used the barrel to explore sunken ships around Europe. Some of these ships were filled with lost treasures, including chests full of silver. Lethbridge became very rich because of his trips in the diving barrel. So what is this text about? Let's look over our answers. It's about how John Lethbridge's diving barrel helped make diving better. Okay. It is about which places John Lethbridge explored with his diving barrel. It is about how much money people paid for John Lethbridge's diving barrel. Well, let's look. So the first one, that makes a lot of sense because remember he was saying how they could go underwater for 30 minutes before they had to come up for air, and it was easier for them to explore sunken ships. So I like that answer, but let's double check our other ones. It's about the places he explored. Well, they just said he explored around Europe. They weren't being very specific in saying where he explored. So that one, they did say something, but that wasn't what the main passage was about. It is about how much money people paid for John Lethbridge's diving barrel. We also didn't talk about money or people buying it. He was just saying that it was easier. So these two, they are not really good answers, but this one, it was about how it made diving easier for people. So I'm going to go with that one. It is the best answer. And remember, I looked back at my other 2 and said, this one is the best. And we got it. Okay, so now we see, we're going to review the second paragraph. So let's read it again. At the time, people wanted an easier way to dive deep underwater. Divers could find buried treasure in ships that had sunk, but it was hard for them to explore the sunken ships. Deep diving was grueling. Divers had to stay inside a diving bell, a small dark space filled with a small amount of air. It was often scary and uncomfortable. They could not swim freely or pick up things from the ocean floor. So based on the text, how did people dive deep underwater in John Lethbridge's time? They carried air tanks? Well, we didn't see that at all. They breathed through long tubes. We didn't talk about that either. Or they used diving bells. Now, we did mention that, but let's go back to the paragraph and find that. It says right here, divers had to stay inside a diving bell. So during his time, that's what they used, a diving bell. So we went back, found this was the best answer, and went back and double checked our answer as well. All right, awesome. So we have 2 more. So we need to review the 4th paragraph, so let's read it. Lethbridge first tested the barrel in a pond outside his house. Then he used the barrel to explore sunken ships around Europe. Some of these ships were filled with lost treasure, including chests full of silver. Lethbridge became very rich because of his trips in the diving barrel, so he collected a lot and got rich. So based on text, what did Lethbridge find on his dives? He found underwater caves, new sea creatures, lost treasures. Well, we didn't talk about caves and we didn't talk about new sea creatures, but he did talk about lost treasure because remember he found chests full of silver. But let's find our answer again in our text. So it says that he used it to explore ships, and these ships were filled with lost treasure. So that's what he was finding as he was diving. And we got it. All right, so now we have to look at the word in bold. The fourth question will always be a vocabulary word. So it says grueling. What is the meaning of grueling as used in the text? So we have to figure out what would make sense. It says deep diving was grueling. So it says they had to dive in these small dark spaces with a little bit of air. That doesn't really sound loud. They're not talking about sound, but it does sound difficult because they didn't have a lot of space and they'd have to be brought up very quickly because there wasn't a lot of air. So I like this answer, but very smelly. Well, they never talked about it smelling bad, so that wouldn't make sense. So I'm going to say deep diving was very grueling based on the fact that it was scary and uncomfortable. And there we go. So just make sure to take time, always double check your answers. And if you are confused on answer or not confident, you can always look back at the paragraph and the answer should be in the text, other than the last one. The last one we will be using text features to make sure that we have the right answer. All right, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye, third grade.